Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vac, and I am a novice streamer, I suppose you could say. Although this isn't technically a stream, it is my intention to start soon. But what I'm not a novice at is gaming. I was gaming before electronics were even in the gaming sphere. I was a kid that played Dungeons and Dragons and things like that back when I was younger, board games. I was into all sorts of things. And I'm pretty old. I don't have a lot of gray hair yet, but trust me on this, the bald hair ought to tell you, or the lack of it. I'm pretty old. So anyway, I'm in my mid-40s and I'm heading into retirement. And I play a game for the last 2 years called Marvel Strike Force. And you're probably familiar with it if you found yourself here. And I've been playing this game exclusively damn near for 2 years now. I've really thrown myself into it. I really enjoy the community. And speaking of the community, I'd like to say real quick, there are a few people that led to my inspiration to be here today and really just kind of taught me the game. When I first started playing Marvel Strike Force 2 years ago, I mostly watched a guy named Seaton that many of you may be aware of. And Seaton was a really good content creator. I'm sure he still is. I'm just not watching his new stuff because I'm really mostly interested in the game. And when he quit playing, I had already been watching a guy named OMG, mobile gamer Trevor. And you guys might probably know him if you're here. And I felt like he had a pretty entertaining stream. And from him, I got to watching Valley Flying, who I think probably is the most entertaining of the Marvel Strike Force streamers, in my opinion. He's got probably some of the best production value, and you can tell he really knows what he's doing on these videos, and you'll be able to tell very quickly that I do not. But my favorite guy, and the guy who really taught me how to play the game, is obviously Casino. And I really didn't start getting into Marvel Strike Force until I found his Discord and started utilizing his infographics and really picking apart the nuts and bolts of the game. And so I'll give Valley the nod on production value and the like, but Casino is the guy who really is the wizard of Marvel Strike Force, if you ask me. And I will try to impart any knowledge that I have during these streams, but if you really want to learn the game, I think that's the guy you should go to. This video I'm making here is just more of me introducing myself to the community for those of you that don't know me, because I've really enjoyed watching the community, in chat, being a part of it. I'm pretty active talking to some people in my arena, Shard, etc. And I really want to continue that. Right, I find myself, because of this COVID-19 thing, I'm not working as much overtime as I used to, but mostly voluntarily. I'm just not comfortable with it. I work in a big petri dish in a factory, and so I figure, I'm gonna want to do something else when I retire. I'm not just gonna sit around on my butt. I probably will gaming, but I might as well make some content out of it and see if I can have some fun with this. So, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna go through my roster. I am 10 million collection power. I just passed that milestone. I am ranked, I believe, 83rd in the game right now. We can go check that. And 83 overall in collection power. I run an alliance called the Mortytown Locos. And I have a bunch of Mortys that I just love. These guys are all great. Gold 2, I could probably shop myself around and find, a higher ranked alliance, but I just wouldn't trade these guys for the world. So, anyway, to the star of the show, which is the roster. So, I've been working on this game, like I say, pretty heavily for 2 years now, and this is where I'm at. Just over 10 million total collection power. I have a good number of 7 Red Star characters, and I've had some decent luck with Red Star pulls, and I do buy a lot of Red Star offers. I'm not even trying to hide that. A lot of people call me a whale, particularly my alliance mates, and it's a fair thing to say. I've always considered myself, a dolphin, right? Like I've always known I was a paying customer. right? I've never really wanted to be free to play. I have an entertainment budget, and as long as I stay inside of it, I'm okay with it. So I try to spend in a manner that is as efficient as possible. And so what that means is I spend my cores on energy. Every day I spend 600 cores, I think it is, to get the first 450s and the first 400s on energy refreshes. That's huge. If I see I do not buy many offers, but the offers I do buy are like endless energy and things like that. Energy is where it is at if you want to be efficient in increasing your rate of advancement in this game. Everything else you want, pretty much, damn near, you can get via energy in a more efficient fashion than just buying it outright. And don't get me wrong, I do a little buying outright when I've got a project that I'm really honed in on. But like I say, I keep it within budget, and I wouldn't suggest to anyone that they spend money on this game that they don't have. That's first and foremost the most important thing. So, yeah, this is all about my transformation from my self-identity as a dolphin into the reality that I am a whale. And so it starts right here. Let's go ahead and I've been working on Captain Marvel. I've been using her on my arena defense, but I think I'm probably going to swap in my Ebony Maw here pretty soon, just to hold off the phoenixes on these attackers. So my number one character is Black Bolt. And that guy is so overpowered, I couldn't help but just put everything I have into leveling this character. And I'm so far the best I've been able to do is 6 red stars, and frankly, I'm thrilled to have that. If you don't have Black Bolt leveled up, I couldn't suggest it more. It certainly kicked me into another stratosphere in arena and made sure that like dropping out of the top 10 just never happened anymore. So at this current stage of the game, and Black Order really has not changed this, Black Bolt followed by Yo-Yo are just the 2 most important characters in the game for nearly every game mode. And that's just, that looks like the way it's going to be for a while. So back to the roster. Mr. Sinister is a character I pulled 6 red stars on pretty early, and I was pretty psyched to do so. He's also done a lot of work for me offensively in arena. I don't use him defensively so much because it's just really easy to bait him into cloning an Ultron bot or something like that. So without the guarantee of a good decision on a clone, I don't really like to use him on defense. I have plenty of other tools. And speaking of which, of course, we all have a good Phoenix, right? I mean, any of us that are truly competing in the game, that's just, you have to have that. There's just no getting around it. And Phoenix is worth the effort. I mean, whatever it takes for you to get her to the final point, which I would love to pull a 7th red star on this lady. But until then, this is as good as I can do right now. She is still, I mean, even with Ebony Maw coming in, that's just one counter, and it's not even necessarily a super effective counter. I mean, I've been plenty of times where Ebony Maw prevents me from doing the special, health drain ability that she uses. And they weather the storm anyway, and then she drops the big bomb on their head regardless. So I mean, it doesn't seem to always help. I'm not totally sold on Black Order, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a good team, don't get me wrong, and we'll get into mine here in a second. But they certainly are not what was advertised. I've got this team very nearly fully jacked, and this is not an Apex raid team by any stretch of the imagination. So let me just get that out of the way right now. So anyway, I'm a big Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan from way back. So we got COULSON here, pretty much jacked out, tier 14, also 6 red stars. I love this character, and I'm not sure that he's necessarily worth this level of investment, if I'm being completely honest with you. But I'm such a fan of him in the show, and Clark Gregg, the guy who plays him in the show as well. That I've watched all the seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's really one of my favorite Marvel properties as far as television and film. And so I probably went in a little heavier on Phil here than I, maybe realistically should have. Because I don't use him in arena, and you don't usually see me max a guy out like this unless I'm using that character in arena. I don't want to put that much effort into a character unless I'm seeing a return in cores. That's very important. But, Phil, I couldn't help it. All right, so Yo-Yo is essential. If you're on the fence about Yo-Yo, and this is a place where you have to make a decision, because Yo-Yo, like Minerva, is one of those characters that they're adamant that you buy if you're gonna have them, right? Like I don't know if they realized at first the massive world-shaking power of these characters, or if they came to that realization later. But in any case, they have made them where they're premium orb only, and it's impossible to farm these characters up. So if you want Minerva, if you want Yo-Yo, if you're gonna buy any character offers, those would be the two I'd start with, right? I mean, they're the best characters out there that you cannot easily access, and Yo-Yo especially. This character is incredible, people. I cannot stress enough. I mean, she trivializes Ultima 7. She's incredible, right? I mean, she's the best tank in the game, and she doesn't taunt, and she doesn't need to. Because what she does instead is just cut the damage in half on all enemies. It's nuts. I mean, and she lands it pretty reliably. And in places like Dark Dimension 3 and other content like that, and U7, things like that, where you're fighting beefy NPCs that will drop the hammer on you, cutting their damage in half is way more efficient than having a tank with a lot of armor and hit points. Like, no tank's got enough hit points to handle Dark Dimension 3. That is the most humbling game mode I've ever played of any game in my life. But I'm muddling my way through it. I'm about to enter the cosmic phase. I'm pretty impressed that Casino's finished it already, because I know, like me, he's kind of a dolphin. He doesn't spend anywhere that it isn't really important. But he probably is a better player than me, if we're being honest. I mean, I've never had the chance to PvP him yet. I probably should reach out. I've talked with him some, but later. For now, moving on the roster review, we've barely cracked my 10 million collection power. The next character here, Corvus Glaive. This was one of the happiest 7 red stars I pulled. That was back when I thought that this was actually going to be an Apex raid team. And I think Corvus is still going to get a lot of usage in war. I think he's going to be pretty useful, especially in versus battles. And I can't wait for that mode to really blossom into something that we can all spend time on and compete with each other in. That's really what I think. That's my North Star in this game. I'm just kind of sleepwalking through a lot of the raids and daily activities like that. But I cannot wait for some 1v1 PvP. That really tickles my fancy. So Corvus is like, man, he does so much damage, and it's an impressive amount of piercing damage, which is what makes him so good. And most of you are probably aware of this. I'm not necessarily trying to instruct anybody on the game. I just want to introduce myself and show you what I'm rolling with here, because I'm going to start some live streams, probably on YouTube, possibly on Twitch as well. I'm going to experiment with both platforms and see how this goes, and we'll roll from there. So Corvus, I pulled 7 red stars on, and that was really the moment I decided I was going all in on Black Order. And I'm not done with him yet. Obviously, I still have to get him to tier 14, and I'm really trying to get on that for the cosmic phase of DD3. But he especially when paired with his wife, man. I mean, they have good synergies, and they're both a little squishy for my taste. That's really one of the weaknesses of Black Order as a team. But man, hit the deeps that this guy can put out, the burst damage that this guy can put out is incredible. I mean, I've taken a 7 red star Shuri from full to dead in one shot. He's something to behold. He really is. Okay, so obviously, you got to have a beef Nick Fury, right? Like I'm trying to tote around a 450 to 500K Shield team pretty much at all times, because who doesn't love Shield? It's a great team that only got better when they added Phil Coulson. So I haven't quite gone all out on Nick, but I've tried to get what I feel like are the most important things, and got him to tier 14, which was a task in and of itself. But he's a pretty good anchor for that Shield team, which is just good in every mode, and really has to be in some of the foundational brickwork of any good roster in this game, I think. Captain Marvel, I'm like I said, she's been seeing some use on my arena defense, although I'm thinking about going with Maw for that. But she's just an incredible character that does great burst DPS and can be plugged in on nearly any team and really help out with the damage. Heimdall, this is a 7 red star character that I really haven't thrown myself into yet. Because I don't want him to get ahead of his team, essentially. I don't want to ruin him for Blitz in that way. And this is not the Asgardian I would have liked to have had 7 red stars, but you take what you can get, and he's a really good character. I mean, he's not as good as others, and he's not even the best on his team. But toting this kind of power, he really does hold down that Asgard team well, and you don't feel like that slot of his is holding you back in any way. Kind of like you're not looking at him the way you're looking at Karnak on your Inhumans team. I'll say that. So Proxima, right here we got Proxima. She's of course Corvus's wife. Great controller, good fit on this team. If you really want to kill this team, she's the person that you kind of you either her or Maw, you kill him first. If you can do enough splash damage somehow to get around Cull, then these guys go down so easy. And if someone is not careful in their placement on their Black Order team and places either Minerva or either Proxima or Ebony Maw, that if they put them next to the tank, they can take enough splash damage to die really easy. So that's a mistake I see some people making. I think Corvus is probably the best guy to put next to the tank. But even that's a gamble because Corvus is kind of squishy. But your bonus there is that Corvus will be stealth a lot of the time, so that's kind of the saving grace. But anyway, I digress. I've been working real hard on this Black Order team, so like I say, we got Black Panther over here. Now this is another one of my 7 red stars that I really need to get on developing. In fact, I was chided by Casino about the state of this character because I've had him 7 red stars for a while, and I just haven't had any good motivation or time to work on. I'm not going to work on him over an arena character, that's more immediately useful and has a return in cores, and like I say, I prioritize that. But he's a great character, and he can do some incredible kill chains if you get him capped out. I know I can get this guy. If I get him to 14, I can get this guy up probably pushing 110,000, and I don't know what the number's going to be, but we'll find out, and it's going to be incredible. So, but he's still a work in progress. Like I say, I have no T4s on him, and in fact, I have no T4s on Wakanda, period. And I'm not sure that I really want any right now. I got enough. Like I say, I'm only in a Gold 2 alliance, and I don't have the T4 mats to be spending on Wakanda, right? I got to prioritize, and of course that's what this game is all about, isn't it? It's all about prioritizing limited resources into the characters that will give you the best return. That's essentially the game in a nutshell. Also, it's RPG cool hero stuff, but whatever, it depends on how you want to look at it. Now, Falcon is a character that I think most people have tuned into the fact that, especially in the mid game, is really useful in arena, and that's why he's jacked as high as he is now. I kind of ran him out ahead of his team a little bit, and that might have been a mistake, but at the time he was instrumental in me climbing the ranks to the top 10 in my arena shard. I don't know. I might still be I probably wouldn't be at this point, but I don't know how much longer I would have lingered in obscurity, you know, hanging out around 250, 200, 150. If I hadn't really jacked this guy. And if you're looking for that little something to put you over the top in Arena and you don't have the big star characters, you know, maybe you don't have an Ultron, maybe you don't have a Phoenix, Falcon's a great guy to plug in there. I mean, that don't even worry about the ultimate. That special is what it's all about. Adding that speed bar to your team is good. It doesn't matter what the team is. That's good. Speed is always great. And he is a beautiful addition to a lot of teams in this game. So I haven't really put anything into him lately, but like I say, he's jacked pretty heavy from that work that I did in the past. And the same could be said about this next guy, CROSSBONES. Man, this guy, I'm embarrassed about these. These are some of the first T4s I bought, and buying that basic was a complete mistake. That was noob move 101. If I was going to buy anything, I should have bought Detonate. But even that, I probably should have never put T4s into this guy at all. But he's been like this forever, right? Like I put him up to gear tier 12 fairly recently, but all the other stuff, yeah, like, man, there was a time, I mean, if you're new to this game, you may not remember, but there was a time, particularly in that first 6 months or so, that CROSSBONES was one of the most effective characters. You couldn't win an arena match without, like, CROSSBONES and Black Widow and Yondu and Captain America. Anyway, most of you probably remember the team. So that's when I did my leveling of CROSSBONES. And I've used him as my icon since. And I do like the character, but I mean, you know, I prefer Cap. And I don't know, it just seems to fit the name Vac, I guess, is essentially what it comes down to. Also, black and white is kind of the color theme of my office, and maybe one day we'll do a little walk around in here, and I'll let you see my my battle station setup here. But for now, let's just stick to the roster. It's going to take us a minute to get through this. 7 red star Hulk. I would like to say I have found an incredible amount of use out of this character at this high star level. It's not happened. He's not bad, and I'm trying out a new Avengers team involving him now that Vision's back in play. But you know, he's still not gonna. He's nothing to write home about, right? I wish that Hulk could smash a little harder. But he's still a decent character, and you know, it's hard not to find some usage for him in most modes. Not raid, obviously, but lots of others. And so now here we get to my AIM Assaulter. This guy is the first of 2 7 red star characters on my AIM team, and as a consequence, I'm really big on AIM. I think that's a great team. It works pretty well for me, at least. I have a 7 red star AIM Assaulter and a 7 red star AIM, whatever the tank is, the security. I can't remember now. We'll get to her in a minute. But you know, like, I think in fact the tank was my first 7 red star character, and it was kind of a bummer to get it on a minion. But then it wasn't that much longer after that AIM got the rework, and I've just loved them ever since. So Assaulter is actually a pretty solid minion on that AIM team. I'm not a big fan of Infector. I'm really not a big fan either of the healer, the scientist or whatever. No. I think go with the damage, and if you lose a guy, you just rely on Scientist Supreme and that passive res. You know, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I don't even have to use that passive res half the time. Those guys do some really good work for me. So now we're getting into Jessica Jones. We got tier 13 Jessica Jones here. I used her briefly in DD2, I believe. She's mostly jacked to this particular level here, just from you know, being one of the better early teams, right? I think sometime in that first year we were all raising defenders, right? And I think most new players nowadays, that's their first team that they go after. I know that to our young Mortys that are coming up, we definitely recommend to them that the first team that they really start putting resources into is defenders, and so that's where I got this 88K JJ. Let's see here. Rocket Raccoon, of course, we all know Rocket. And, you know, any of us with some experience in this game, we've built a BKT team or some other sort of Guardians hybrid, and you don't see any of them without Rocket, right? I mean, Rocket can be decent without Groot. Groot can be decent without Rocket, but you put the two of them together, man, and it just makes for a good team. And so, you know, you start slapping all those other good tank in there, and then of course a Minerva is what really brings that BKT together. I don't really use BKT anymore, right? It seems like the game has sort of moved past, if you're at the upper echelons, we've sort of moved past BKT, and that's not really a good setup anymore. So I'm actually using Rocket now in just a straight up Guardians configuration. Although I do sometimes slip Minerva in there with them instead of Mantis, just sort of whichever one is more appropriate. I'm proud of this guy, and I really want to get around to raising this guy. Kingpin, man. I'm excited about Kingpin at this juncture because of mercs. He's not a merc himself, but he summons mercs. He assists on villains, which mercs are included in that. And, you know, he's kind of a left field pick for most people, but giving them my 7 red stars, I'm probably going to loop back around when I'm done with some arena characters and start putting some more resources into this guy and see, you know, just how annoying I can make him on my war defense. And so I'm looking forward to that in the future. Let's see here. Punisher, of course, is another integral part of my defenders. I really have not used Miss Marvel on defenders in forever. I think Punisher's better in most situations except Raid, pretty much. And even in Raid now, I'd just rather use Punisher. Miss Marvel, for me, man, she's got a permanent home on my brawler, my hero brawler team. I'm still sporting a hero brawler team, and I think it's pretty good. You know, it's situational. You know, you don't want to throw them at everybody, but they do put in good work for me every week. So I have not yet broke that team up. Let's see now. Where were we? On to Luke Cage, the tank for our, like I say, I haven't put a whole lot into Luke except just to kind of get him to the obligatory gear 13, jacked him up. You know, I want a good, strong defenders as sort of the first team on my war defense, which is really just the best use for them. I mean, they work okay when you let the CPU play them, as opposed to some teams that are just really just terrible when you let the CPU play them. I can't understand people that put power armor on war defense. Like the CPU does not use the powers in the correct order, and a lot of the burst DPS that comes with that team gets diffused if you do that, and it's easy to heal through it. Right? I mean, I don't understand why people would put that on defense. It's a pretty weak defensive team, and it's one of the best offensive teams, and I see that all the time. But hey, I'm in gold too. You maybe don't see that in your league. So Luke, you know, Luke hasn't seen any love in a long time, and man, it's probably going to be a long time before he does. But I'm pretty satisfied with where he's at. I pulled the 6 red stars on him fairly recently, in fact. But he was, I think 4 or 5 before that. But still, even at 4 red stars, man, he tanked fine for that group. You know, I mean, he just had to basically keep everybody alive for 3 or 4 turns, and then the DPS wraps it up with those guys. So anyway, we'll move on from him. We're getting down into the less impressive, you know, like 80,000s and below, but we're still going to see some high red stars in here occasionally. As you can see right down here, we got 2 7 red stars right there. So let's see here. My Thanos, I had not done a lot with Thanos in a long time. You know, I mean, I got him to where he would perform pretty well on BKT, and then I kind of haven't done much with him since. So here lately, I've been trying to catch him up. I've almost got him to gear tier 14. I kind of let off of that when I realized that Black Order was not going to be, you know, everything that we were promised. But it's still, he, you know, in either configuration, whether he's empowered or not, Thanos is a good character. And so yeah, it still might be some time before he sees enough resources to get 14, but yeah, it might not be as long as others, right? So in fact, it might be pretty quick. I'm giving some thought to just raising the whole Black Order team to Gear Tier 14. Number one, so I can use them in the Cosmic section of Dark Dimension 3, and number two, just so there's no disseminating on the performance of the team, right? Like, you can't tell me, like, oh, you don't have high enough. Like, nah, they're high enough. I feel like right now, they're all at least Gear Tier 13. My weakest one is Ebony Maw at, what is he here, 85,000, right? This is my weakest Black Order character. And, you know, he's still got a little work. Sure, there's some Tier 4s that I can put into him, and I will. But I don't find them to be near what was advertised. And I don't know, it seems way more likely that these guys just don't know their game as well as a lot of the players do. It seems that's more likely than, you know, them basically misleading us. But I kind of think it's an element of both, if I'm being totally honest. I don't think they purposefully want to be misleading. I think they oversold the team. And they did the same thing with Wakanda. You know, I get it. You want to make some money on this team. You're excited about them. You're proud of the work you've done. And you say, oh, these guys are the best. But no, not really. No, they're not. And the only thing that really makes me mad about it is missing the mark on a raid team is one thing. Missing the mark on what you say is an arena team. Now you're bringing cores into the mix. Now you're talking about money. And people put investments into arena teams that they don't put into other characters. So that kind of made the missing the mark on them a little more egregious in my mind and a little more misleading, shall we say. And while I heard the argument that they made almost ahead of time when talking to Casino and Valley Flying, and they said that the players always figure out a way to beat a team that we can't foresee. And I mean, that's a reasonable thing, and I get that, but I don't think it applies for Black Order, because to be honest, the teams that are stomping Black Order in Arena today are the same teams that were ruling the Arena meta for the last 3 to 5 months. It's Black Bolt, it's Yo-Yo, it's not some new thing that the players concocted. It's the same teams that I've been using for half a year that are whooping this supposed Apex team. And I don't mean like they're taking them to the woodshed, but they are beating them. I mean, in my arena shard, if you throw your Black Order team on your defense, that is a good way to plummet. It's just not a good thing for your future in arena if you do that. I know one guy that does it successfully, and he has a team that's almost as good as mine. I don't even bother to put mine in. Like there's just no point. I'm still rolling with my Black Bolt Yo-Yo. And I'll show you that team in a minute if you'd like. So, Star-Lord here, although I don't have a live chat here, so I don't know what the hell you like, but we'll get to that at some point. Star-Lord, of course, also another integral part of the BKT team, which I, of course, raised pretty early on. I haven't had a lot of incentive to give him some love lately, but if he were any weaker, I probably would, because he's a great character and I get a lot of use out of him. There's no doubt that there's a lot of lanes in certain raids that I use him and the rest of the kind of the BKT setup occasionally. Although my new favorite raid team is Spider-Verse Symbiotes. Like, oh, that's just a great team. But anyway, so Star-Lord, Quill, he's still sitting up here in the upper echelons, but he's not really getting love lately. And unless something changes, he probably won't for a while. Colossus, man, I jacked this guy when I was using him to protect my Phoenix in Arena, which was highly useful at one point. Now, man, he's probably as high as he's ever going. I can't say that. Probably at some point he's going to 14, but I kind of regret putting all those T4s into him. But like I say, man, when I'm using a character to gain cores, I'm maxing that character out. if only to have an intimidating number for players that are looking at attacking you. Although I guess that really doesn't matter once you get to number 1, man. They're coming after you no matter what. The name of the game now, since we thought Black Order might change the arena meta up a little bit, but it didn't. So right now, what it is everybody's using Black Bolt and Yo-Yo and some configuration of that, and Ultron and Phoenix or whoever, and then really what it comes down to is sniping. Right, like there's a flurry of activity in the 15 to 30 minutes right before the rewards are calculated, and that's that. So like I hang out at number 2 or number 3 all day, and then in the final 5 minutes I go out there and I go headhunting for number 1. That's the only way to play arena. So it's like a clock game. It's not even that fun. What I want out of arena is what we might possibly see with the versus battle mode, which is way more interesting to me. So anyway, the final member here of my Black Order team, which actually I said earlier that Maul was the weakest, but I've been raising him a little bit. I got him to 14, so actually now Cull is the weakest. Which honestly, that's the setup I prefer. On most of my team setups, I would like for the tank to be the weakest power character. This is the meat shield, right? I really need those DPS and controller characters to be able to land what they're throwing out. This guy, I just need him to sit there and take a hit to the face. So, anyway, he's a really good tank. Got no complaints on him playing his role in the team, right? He taunts. It's just the things that are used to get around him is not something he can do anything about. Splash damage is not something he can do anything about. The fact that just enough sustained damage is going to take this guy down. He's got great stats. I mean, that's not the issue. He could probably use a little love, but he's probably not going to get it, and I'm not really asking for it. He's just a good tank on an underwhelming but still really good team. Is the best way to put it. So moving on from Black Order, now we're back down here to Daredevil. Daredevil is a good character that I raised back when I was really jacking up the defenders, and he really honestly is good DPS in his own right. I mean it's pretty rare that I stick him on any other team, but he's not a bad character. It's not a bad character. So here's my first 7 Red Star character, AIM Security. That was the name I was searching for earlier, the tank. I haven't really ever felt the need to put any T4s into her. And I'm not yet at the point where I want to take her to gear 13. So she's sitting at a nice level for me right now. At some point I want to jack all my 7 Red Star characters just to do it, right? Just to have them up there, just so I can have that at the top of the roster, as a kind of a crowning jewel, a bunch of 110K or whatever characters. But in due time, I'm actually one that I build from the bottom of the roster up a whole lot, like a lot, right? Like almost every character on my roster that's usable is gear tier 12 at this point. I don't even need purple gear for the most part. And that's in no small part because I do build from the bottom. So Kree Noble, another early 7 Red Star character that I pulled here. Good DPS. Not an outstanding character. Wasn't the best 7 Red Star to pull, but she's not terrible. She calls in assists, does good damage. She's a good part of the Kree team, such as it stands today. And she's just jacked up because of that high Red Star pull. Black Widow, man, start of the game, shit. You couldn't do nothing without a Black Widow. This was the most important meta character in the game during the early meta. And it's probably largely attributed to speed, right? Everything's about speed in these games. And so, she got some love. I never have, you can tell it's been a while since she got some love because I never have jacked her on up to 75 because, hey, I think we can all agree. Gold's pretty tight, right? Gold's pretty tight. We don't need that. So Minerva, man, I mean, what can you say about Minerva? Like I was saying with Yo-Yo, this is one of those characters that is just so damn good. The game's just hard without her. And they want you to buy her as a consequence. So, you know, if you're out there dolphining it up and you want to know where you want to spend your money efficiently, like I said, if you buy any 2 character offers, start with Yo-Yo and then get Minerva. Those are just the 2 characters that you cannot otherwise easily get. You know, now I think at this point you can pretty easily farm up an Asgardian team, and with that get a Black Bolt, who's the other major character in the game right now. But man, Minerva. Even now that BKT is kind of a thing of the past, Minerva is still such an outstanding, incredible character that can be plugged in so many places. I use her a lot on Ultima 7. I mean, I probably could swap her out for somebody DPS and still clear a lot of those nodes and even clear them faster. But man, I gotta tell you, for content like that anymore, I've been playing this game for so long now, and my characters are so beefy that I am just a fire and forget player. And if you join my live streams, it's mostly going to be a lot of talking with chat while I hit autoplay and explain what I'm doing, I guess. Because I mean, I only manually play when I absolutely have to, and that is really just isn't often anymore. Of course, obviously, I manually play out my DD3 run every day, my daily dose of humiliation, but. Most things in the game at this point, no. That's why I'm so excited for versus PvP mode, just to give me something to get engaged in. Because Blitz doesn't do it anymore, right? Most of the blitzes, unless it's a new character, there's nothing for me to do there, right? I either milestone and chill, or I don't even bother with a milestone sometimes. I mean, it's just not, gold's tight, but so is time occasionally. So anyway, moving on into the symbiotes here. Venom is a character that I pulled pretty high red stars on early in my Marvel Strike Force career. And that has really never been a bad thing for me. This guy is incredible. And paired up with the new symbiotes, Carnage isn't new, but still paired with Carnage and Symbi Spidey. These guys are they're just really the stars of the Spider-Verse in this game at this moment. I can't say enough good things about them. So Okoye's floating in here at 79k. She's just a pretty solid performer on my Wakanda team, which is kind of just I use Wakanda as a filler on my war defense. I use Wakanda obviously for this new Chaos Theory, mode. But man, that was just all. It's been all autoplay as well to this point. So 79k is where she's at, and 79k is where she's going to stay for a while. And that's good enough for me. I mean, I can't see needing her any higher than that. Getting down to Loki, my boy here at 79k. Loki, man, this is a good character, and he was good on the proto supernatural team, the mystic team that a lot of us were using early on in the game. He was a big part of that, and he got jacked then. And then since then, I've kind of been catching up the rest of the Asgardians to him. And I got the Asgardians in a place where I like them. And when we get down here to the bottom of the roster, I'll just run quickly through my save teams and kind of let you see what I'm working with in Blitz and War. So Shuri, also, man, this is a character that I cannot recommend enough. 6 red stars. I mean, I've seen some people. I got a guy in my alliance with 7. I know Casino. This was his first 7 red star pull, and that was a little disappointing to Casino. But he's a little farther along in the meta than probably my friends in my alliance are. But still, it's a great character. And, especially for defensive-minded builds. And that's kind of how I go at PvE content, is just sort of like, let me get the sustain, let me get the defense. And she's great for this. So because of, I put Shuri and Minerva on my Ultima 7 team, and basically I'm letting Black Bolt do all the damage. And then I hit go and I walk away. And I just, let them tear through everything in their own time, and it's just good enough that they almost never time out, except on the latest nodes occasionally. And on those, if I feel that coming, I'll swap in a Phoenix or something like that. But for the most part, you know, like we're still doing Ultima 7 on the base difficulty, although we qualify for difficulty 1, but we just haven't made that jump yet. We're trying to fill a spot on our roster, and I'm just not confident jumping into that until that. But Shuri, man, I mean, she of course is great on the Wakanda team, but you throw her into a lot of teams, and she really adds that extra oomph on the defense. She's a good healer, you know. She's buffing. She's, you know, the defense up. You know, I mean, she's not gonna wow you. You know, she's not the one you're gonna be bragging to your buddies about. But this is a solid character to have on your team. Of course, Cyclops, man, how excited were people when this guy came to the game? Honestly, you know, I could probably still be fielding a decent X-Men team without him, but he's incredible, man. I mean, he does so much good area of effect DPS that a lot of times, man, you know, it used to be the fight was always over with X-Men when you got to your Phoenix's big burst, right, her ultimate. But now, like, sometimes there's some teams that just don't even last that long in war. I mean, they get, you know, basically he finishes them off, or at least gets them weak enough with his AE and does enough damage that, you know, it's really not necessary to drop the big bomb. So he's been a good addition to the team. I'm not saying that. And the best part about it for me, though, is that he freed up PSYLOKKE to go and be on my hero brawler team that I mentioned earlier. Love that team. So, you know, it made both. It made him coming onto the scene not only made X-Men better, it made brawlers better. So I was pretty happy with that, and it freed up Spider-Man. Some guys I could put together a real Spider-Verse team at that point. So I was happy when he came into the game. Scientist Supreme is one of these characters, man, that she was just nothing. It was the first sign of a noob early on in the game if you put points into this character. But now she's well. She's incredible. I don't use her in U7 as much as some people, but I know, like, if you're planning on losing people, you know, yeah. I go with Minerva, but what's incredibly good about Scientist Supreme is the way you can put her onto non-aim teams, and she'll then, you know, she cycles through and puts a lot of negative debuffs on them that she did in the next turn flips to positives, and so it's kind of risky. You know, you might get jacked in that one turn that you're holding all those debuffs, but on the whole, man, it's a pretty solid strat, and she does well. So I mean, if I didn't have a jacked Minerva, yeah, I'd be using her way more often, and as it is, man, she's got a permanent home on my aim team because I love my aim team. So anyway, moving on. All right. So, Red Skull, man, did you get this guy? I mean, did you really get this guy? You know, here's the thing about Red Skull. You know, I picked him up, got a few orbs, got a few offers, got him to a good rank. I since after the fact, you know, managed to get him up to 7 stars, and I haven't regretted it, man. He's a great team. That whole Hydra team has really. Here's the thing, I had a 300k Hydra minion team that I just kind of used as fluff on my arena or in my war defense. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to build these guys up strong, and that way you can't clear them with trash, right? I wanted you, if you were going to come in and take out my 300k Hydra minion team, I wanted you to at least have to bring like a 200 to 250k like good team to take them out. And that was sort of my thinking. So then when Red Skull came along, man, it made me look like a genius, right? Because now I just plugged him right in. And the irony of a war defense character like Red Skull is that I have very rarely actively played him, right? You just don't play him. But I have, you know, auto-played some matches, and I have done a few, you know. I probably haven't actually manually played him through more than 7 or 8 matches, though, because, you know, he's on your war defense, and that's where he puts in most of his work. It's very much like Taskmaster, the new, you know, hot defensive star. But Red Skull, incredible character, nothing else to say about him. You know, if you can get him, raise him, have fun with that. Iron Fist kind of lurking down around here. You know, he got some love back when Defenders was good, 79K. And we got a lot of guys in the 70 on this roster. So, you know, this is going to be a lot of our bulk of a lot of our teams. I got a 78K Pyro here. Man, great character. Really makes that Brotherhood team sing. Great damage. Love the heal blocks, man. You can't say enough about that. You know you're in trouble when you're playing Brotherhood. You know you're in trouble when Pyro goes down. Shield Trooper, man. I think this is one of the more underrated characters in the game. I'm a big believer in free attacks, and so this was one of the first like free attack guys in the game. And so I mean, I really feel like his place is, you know, on a good shield defense team, right in between the tank and preferably medic, because those are the two characters that any player is more likely going to be shooting. And then, man, just let the free attacks roll in. You beat this guy up. Definitely, it's very important. You know, you want to put a T4 into his basic, because that's what the free attack that he gets all the time is. And I haven't felt the need to take this guy to 14, but man, is he a solid performer on a really good shield team. And so, man, I mean, I used to use Operative instead, but I had to let her go by the wayside. You know, like I said, I usually think defensive, and I was using Shield for raids a lot back at that moment. I still kind of use them, you know, on some lanes. I still use them occasionally, but now, I mean, now I can just throw Trooper in there and just power through, and defense is not quite as needed. But of course, I've built up since then. You know, things change. So Shield Medic, man, I really kind of wish this character was higher. You know, just a strong defensive healing character on a good defensive team. And honestly, she could probably use some more love. But I don't know that she needs any more T4s than this fighting fit. And, I mean, honestly, I'm not the guy to talk to about T4s. I largely either throw everything I have into an arena character, or I'm selectively putting in T4s based, I mean, really, I mean, if I'm being honest, off Casino's infographics and the Orange Essentials series, etc. It's just such a great resource. That guy, I mean, I feel like I know a lot about this game at this point, but Casino, man, is really that's the guy who taught me the game. That's the guy who probably knows it the best. And I've seen him make mistakes. Everybody's human, but man, I can't give enough props to that guy. So, Crystal, man, I mean, this is a character now. This is a character that might be moving upward for me and soon, because I could see applications for her in Arena. But I don't know. I would feel better about that if I had a 6 red star. You really got to come correct when you come in my Arena shard. And I don't know. So, but she's a great character, man. Really, you know, really anchors her team. Black Bolt obviously does all the damage, and he's the big star of the show. But man, she's one of the only characters that has 2 area of effect attacks that hit the entire enemy team, and that in itself is noteworthy. And then she's passively healing the entire Inhumans team. So I mean, like, she's a no-brainer. Like, that's a good character, and you want to raise that character. War Machine, I'm here. Deal with it. It's me. You know, he's what can I say? I mean, hell, I like him better than Iron Man, this is the only context I can say I like War Machine better than Iron Man. But I like War Machine better than Iron Man in Marvel Strike Force. Although they both have a pretty good home on that Power Armor team now, and I got to say, we'll get to her in a minute. But with the testing that I've been doing with Ironheart, man, I mean, like, this is a better team than it was before, and it was a pretty damn good team before. So, you know, hey, Iron Man obviously is sitting right here at 76, right behind. That did used to be. I had to catch Iron Man up a bit, and I probably should continue moving him up. He's really one of my weaker legendaries. But most of my people are floating in this mid 70s range, because I was on like a big kick. I would go all the way to the bottom of my roster. And barring a few characters down here that just I don't ever see any love for, you know, who the hell raises Mercenary Soldier? Who raises a Kriork? Well, that guy's terrible. You know, Ravager Bruiser. Oh, best tank in the game. Not. So, you know, like but what I'll do is I'll come down to characters that I know I want to use, and and raise them from the bottom up, right? Like, I'm actually not going to do that because I don't want to waste. I really need to save my superior gear for my top end guys right now. So basically, raising from the bottom went away once I got everybody to 12. But that was the way I did it for a long time. Just to make sure that every team I'm fielding is in a usable range for where I'm at in the game, right? So I'm at that now, like I say, so that's why you see all these people are hanging around in the 75K range. So we got a Magneto over here at 75K. Of course, this guy was, you had to have this guy for Arena at one point. I think that point has now passed. He's one of those guys that just counter after counter after counter is sort of, you know, he's too easy to get around in a 5v5 setting, but still great on the, you know, when you use the Brotherhood team on offense and you can pick your battles, you know, still incredible, still worth having. Spider-Man Miles, man, he's okay. He's all right. He does his job on the symbiote team. You know, I basically put Spider-Man Miles and Spider-Man Peter with the 3 symbiotes, and that's my Spider-Verse team. And Miles, you know, I mean, sometimes, I mean, here's the thing about Miles. He's useful and all, and the, you know, rewinding turn meter, and, you know, who doesn't love all that? But, like, if he dies early, yeah, I still might win, right? I mean, so I know his impact is limited. But, you know, I mean, having him is better than not having him. Shield security, man, this is the guy's locked down a lot of wins for a lot of people, man. You know, I mean, that's an annoying tank right there. You try to kill anybody on his team, and he'll pull a free taunt. And who doesn't love a free taunt? So, you know, I really haven't given the guy super amounts of love. I did at one point raise him to 13. I think maybe that was overdoing it, but I was really big on that shield team and trying to get them all to 13 at that point. Elsa Bloodstone, man, are you on this train? Are you on this train? Because Elsa is legit. Elsa does damage. I really love the way she performs on the Supernatural team. She's farmable now, so for those of you that didn't jump on early, man, get out there and get this girl. She, you know, you can plug her in as DPS about anywhere. And she has some great moves, you know. She's got a great cone attack. She's got a good. I really like the way the second shot on the trick shot hits the lowest health person, a la Deadpool. You know, she's a good character. This is a good solid, you know, A- DPS character that really fills her spot well on a Supernatural team that will counter a lot of good war defenses. So it's worth having her. Now, my Spider-Man symbiote, man, I really should have this guy raised higher. And this is a pretty good candidate for me when I get some more gold upgrade tokens. This is a pretty good candidate for me to raise from 5 red stars to 6. This character rocks. I love this character, which works for me pretty well because I was a big fan of, you know, when I was a kid reading comics, that was during this era of Spider-Man. And so I do like the symbiote storyline. And you know, so playing with this character just kind of gives me an inner grin. You know, my little inner child really likes it. And he's strong, man. Is he strong? So anyway, PSYLOKKE, I mentioned her earlier, man. You know, she did well on X-Men for a long time. I've since moved her over, and now she is a perennial on my hero brawler team, where she does a good job, man. You know, she's got a buff strip, you know, so she can remove taunt. She does decent damage. You know, she's throwing out evades to people, so she adds a little defensive bonus there into the team, which really is something that that Brawlers is not really known for. And you know, so she performs well there, and I'm glad I got her on the team. The team is better with her. Thor, man, this is another one that I wish I had higher red stars. Now, obviously, early on in the life of the game, this character was, man, we were all disappointed in how good Thor was, or more accurately, how good Thor was not. But, man, I mean, you know, with the rework, he's still individually probably not the best DPS character out there, but man, is he strong on the team. And what you got to love about him is all the free shots he get. If you're going after an Asgard team, man, kill this guy first. He's kind of like Ghost Rider. Like he's not necessarily the character you would want to kill first, right? You like when you're going up against the Supernatural team, you don't want to start off with Ghost Rider. But if you don't, both of those characters will make you pay so horrendously that it's just in your best interest to start with them. So as much as you might want to take out some of the squishier, harder hitting Asgardians like Hela first, to me, it's just the best strategy to start with Thor. So that's why I wished I had a stronger Thor. Also, man, he's really dropping the hammer since the rework. It's fun to watch the guy work. And I've always been a fan of the character. So Vision, man, this is a guy that's back in play, right? Who doesn't love this guy? Well, probably a lot of people, but still. Vision is an interesting character I never really was into in the comics, but has been a solid character in this game. And so I'm hoping that we can kind of see a cohesive, decent Avengers team come up around him now. Because, boy, I need a decent home for my Captain America and some other guys, you know. Invisible Woman, maybe she's my lowest legendary. Man, I don't even know now. So I'm learning my own roster as we go here. She is somebody that, I mean, like, you wouldn't want to field Fantastic Four without her, right? I mean, she definitely, you know, keeps those high DPS characters alive and keeps the whole thing rolling. And she's, and if you're in the mid range of the game, she's incredibly useful in other game modes. She's good to put in some people use her in U7, some people use her in Arena even. Although I'm sort of past that point, but you know, she has her uses now. For me, at this juncture, you know, late in the game, 10 million total collection power. She basically just runs with her Fantastic Four team. And, you know, I got no complaints there. She's doing fine. I would like to swing around and throw some T4 love her way, but, I mean, just, you know, priorities, man. You gotta have priorities. So it just hasn't happened yet. Shocker. All right. So I guess this is my strongest character on Sinister Six. Sinister Six, now my second favorite Spider-Verse team. Used to be my favorite before the symbiotes. Sinister Six, man, they're good. The thing about them is that they are largely good at taking out, you know, other Spider-Verse teams and city characters, right? So defenders, right? So they're kind of a niche. This is not if you're young and coming up and you're new in the game, and you know, this is not the first team I would raise. Although they have a lot to recommend them in that you can raise a Sinister Six team and get 2 legendaries from it. You can get both Shuri and Invisible Woman, and so there's certainly, I don't want to downplay that, but I just don't know if this is the team I'd be looking to add to your roster early on for, you know, certainly not for Blitz, or, you know, like they'll do okay in Blitz, they'll do fine, but their niche for me seems to be taking out big defenders teams in war. That's really it. That's really what they do. Like every war, I take out one big, you know, 400-500K defenders team with them, and then they're done. That's it. That was their contribution. And it's not like that's a terrible contribution, but that's their niche. And if that's not what you're looking for, and like, I mean, you know, you could probably, there are other teams that you could easily prioritize over Sinister Six. Sabretooth, my man here, you know, I got him solidly on the Marauders now. I kind of took me a while to really move to the new configuration for Brotherhood because I didn't really invest heavily into Blob or Toad. But I've kind of caught them up now, and so now Sabretooth is living happily on my war defense with the Marauders team. And of course, you saw my Mr. Sinister earlier. It's a pretty strong team, and I put Ultron with them, and it does pretty well on defense. I got no complaints. So where are we at? We go Rescue 74K. Also, no T's. You know, I got no T4s in her. Just letting her sit where she's at. She's in a good spot. We'll probably come around and give her some love one day. But all the love for that team right now is going to Ironheart. Miss Marvel, man, this character. Like I used to use her early on as a 5th in my defenders for raid back when it was mostly what I had, you know, and I was kind of recovering from the fact that you know, the early meta team with Black Widow and Captain America and all that team had sort of fell apart, and so I was leaning heavily on defenders, and she got a lot of love back then. Hasn't received any lately, except maybe to gear up to 12, but solid character. You know, not going to write home about it, but man, you know, I couldn't see my Brawlers team without her, and I love my Brawlers team. Juggernaut, man, good tank. You know, good tank in his own right. 73K. Still need some love. Got 2 more gear tiers. Got a lot of T4s I can put into him. Sky's the limit for this guy. But like I said before, I like for my tank to be the lowest character on the team, and right now that's not even the case with Brotherhood. So this guy's not going to get any love for a while until Toad and Blob kind of catch up a bit. Karnak, easily the most replaceable of the Inhuman team, but why would you replace him? Right? If you got him, you got him. He's okay. I mean, he had some good things in the team. It's helpful to I start using his crippling blows as the opening blow that I like to go with, just to slow down the enemy team, and I save that pressure points attack for when the taunt comes in from the tank. Although, you know, it's really not that critical, and sometimes I use it on, depending on what team I'm facing, I'll use it on something else. Aside from taunt, just because, you know, the whole team is really about area of effect damage against the entire enemy team, so there's not a whole lot of point, you know, in necessarily worrying about the tank and spank strategy, because you're just going to hit everybody, and it doesn't matter who the fuck's taunting. Pardon my language. I maybe should bleep these, but I'm not monetizing anything. My plan is to stream regularly, but I have no intentions of trying to make a living at this. I have a job, obviously, and you know, I'm kind of coasting into the end of my career, and I can see me doing this in my retirement. But basically, I'm not trying to make a living from this. And I just want to engage with the community, have a good time, and see how this goes as a new hobby. So Namor, man, I really, you know, I mean, I hate custom. I mean, I hate pre-made teams, and I'm like a lot of people. I love the theory craft and move. But I just haven't found anybody else for Fantastic Four that really works as well as Namor. He's not technically on that team, but man, he was obviously designed for them, and it shows. And I you know, given that I have them all, and I really don't have to make any sacrifices, and if I mean, there are good characters that I could bring into this team that might outperform Namor. Don't get me wrong. But then that would be probably ruining another team in just about every case, right? About everybody's got a home at this moment where I'm at. So I go with the Namor, and man, he performs really well. So Green Goblin was probably like, what, the 2nd or 3rd best DPS character on the Sinister Six team, which is just kind of a mid-range team with a niche. So this is not a character I'd be burning down any bridges to get at. But, you know, He's not bad. He's not bad. And he's just sort of in the middle of the pack here with me. Kree Royal Guard, you know, mid-range tank on a mid-range team. A lot of times, man, I don't even put him on the Kree team. You know, if I'm going on an all-out Kree team, like on doing, I forget which raid it is. This is the one we're doing right now. The raid where you have a Kree lane. Then I don't even use this guy, really, honestly, because I just throw all my best Kree on there. You know, I throw Captain Marvel, you know, I throw Minerva, and I don't even necessarily know that I need a tank if I got Minerva on that team. So I've been experimenting with not using him, and I can't say that it's really hurt me. Yondu, man, I miss Yondu. I don't have a good team to put him on. He was so fantastic early on in the game, which was when I bought this Centauri Hunter, and honestly, that didn't even end up working the way we thought it did. Now, man, you know, he's in relative obscurity. I'm hoping that one day there'll be some kind of a Ravager rework, and he'll come back. The Thing, excellent part of Fantastic Four, incredible damage. He's just a big, beefy stat wall. What can you say? 73,000 Mr. Fantastic, also good damage, single target damage, and not as good as the Things really, but solid character, works well in the team, wouldn't trade it for nothing. I'm a real big fan of that Fantastic Four team. I really wasn't a fan of the comics as a kid. I didn't read a lot of Fantastic Four. For me, it was all X-Men and Avengers and things like that. But Fantastic Four is a solid team for this game. Bullseye. Man, I got a 72K Bullseye. Even now that Mercs is a good team, I'm still not using a lot of Bullseye. And I really, honestly, my feeling is that I would never put Bullseye on a team that a player is going to face. Because unless you've got some really good taunting to keep him free, and I really don't know that Mercs team applies. He's just so easy to kill. Ridiculously easy to kill. So, you can't complain about his damage. Honestly, if you get some high red stars on him and jack this guy up, I bet he does as much damage as almost anybody. He's just so weak. He's just a paper tiger. And, I don't see me putting a lot of resources into him going forward unless things change. Hand Sentry, man, probably still the best minion in the game, that group stealth is fantastic. I like it better on Phoenix, but he's pretty good. Unfortunately, hand is trash. That's just the way it is right now. But who knows? There's always the hope for a rework. 72K Scarlet Witch. Yeah, Wanda here probably deserves a little more love from me, and that might be coming in future days because I could see me really trying to jack that Supernatural team up a little higher. And she's found a good home there. I'm a big fan of that team. Rhino, solid tank for Sinister Six. Also, if you don't know, good counter for Magneto, right? So if you're in arena and if you have a good Rhino and you need somebody to plug in, and you're fighting against somebody with a Magneto, pull that Juggernaut or whoever you got out, put a Rhino in, and he will just take those blinds away for you. Theoretically, so will aim security, but I'd probably go with Rhino. Great character, decent damage for a tank, better than decent damage for a tank. So, don't sleep on Rhino. Groot. I think we all know what Groot brings. I gotta tell you, the biggest reason that Groot is where he's at now is Dark Dimension 2. I brought Groot in for my DD2 team to get Ultron. And I haven't regretted it, man. Even at a relatively low red star rank of 4 red stars, he performs well. He adds a lot of survivability to your team, and that was essentially his job on my DD2 team, was just to make sure that everybody had defense up and death proof. That was pretty much his only job. Sure, here's the thing about life spores. Don't think of life spores as a heal. All right, technically it's a heal. It's not a heal. Forget about that. Think of life spores as a debuff clear, because that's what it is, right? It's a cleanse, right? That's the way you should think of it. And if you don't need to cleanse debuffs, don't even bother using it, man. Just throw some damage out. Crushing Blow here actually does decent damage. I think most of us know that. And obviously some of the best damage he adds is just being a tripod mount for Rocket. Vulture, this guy is the best damage on Sinister Six. Yeah, roughly, in my opinion. Shocker's good too, don't get me wrong. My Shocker's actually a little higher. But Vulture, he brings that good deeps. That's his job. That's his only job. Ant-Man, here's the thing about Ant-Man. I stopped raising Ant-Man for a long, long time. Now I'm thinking he might end up on an Avengers team, but we'll see how that goes. I don't know if I'm going to give him enough love to get him to Gear Tier 13, but I'm playing with him on a new Avengers setup, and he might get some more love down the road if that turns out to pan out. I'm not too hopeful, but we'll see.
Ghost Rider, this is a character that just became farmable. If you don't have him, hop on that train. His retributive damage, I guess, is that the right word? I don't know. Anyway, his retributive damage, that doesn't sound right either. Anyway, the damage he throws at people when they kill one of your characters is pretty substantial. Excuse me. COVID. And the damage is pretty substantial. It is worth having. So, there's plenty of characters you can prioritize over them. But if you have any notions at all of having a supernatural team, then this is your guy. You got to get on that. You got to get on that, because it just doesn't work as well without him. I mean, kind of the whole shtick of the team, right, is that you're giving away a character or two at the beginning, right? Like if you use them as a counter to, say, Coulson, Fury, Shield, those guys are going to get a ton of attacks before you get to move. And more than likely, 2 people are dead right off the bat. And whoever kills those 2 people are taking a wallop from Ghost Rider. And then right afterwards, Doctor Strange just resurrects them. And that's kind of the whole shtick, right? Like they start off losing and then they surge back and they win it out. That's kind of that's sort of how that team flows. And it just doesn't work without that damage that you get from Ghost Rider as a retribution. Hand Archer, not great, but he's probably a little underrated, to be honest. I mean, he's got a group buff clear. He's got some pretty decent team. He's just on a crap team. And so if you've got this team to a level where they can do the event that's designed for them, then I don't necessarily know that you need to raise these guys any higher. I literally don't use them in war at all at this point. I have enough offensive and defensive squads that I can thankfully leave these red-hooded so-and-sos on the bench where they belong. Drax, man, you know what? I started playing this game because of a funny line that Drax had in a TV commercial that caught my attention, where the medic runs out of the back of the helicarrier and gets shot immediately and goes down, and Drax, who's in there with him, is like, he should not have gone first. Like that, I laughed so hard. I was like, I'm going to go see what that game's about. And then here we are 2 years later. I started an alliance with my brother and some real-life friends, and man, it's just been snowballing ever since. And now I look around, I find myself in the top 100. I got this beefy roster. I'm loving the game. And I can't remember the last time I spent this long playing a game, and it wasn't an MMO, which is something that I've been into in the past, if you're familiar. So anyway, Drax is good, and I'm actually back to using Drax again, because now that BKT has been broken up, I'm actually using a full-on Guardian squad again. And so, Drax is back in the game. He kind of was on the bench for a while. Winter Soldier, he's kind of on the bench for me right now. I got him on a blitz team, but other than that, what am I doing with this guy? I was really hopeful that Winter Soldier and Crossbones, because you'll remember that I have a really beefy 6, maybe 7 Red Star Crossbones. I think I started off with him at Crossbones at 6 Red Star, and then I pulled a 7 later. But anyway, I digress. I have really strong Hydra characters in Crossbones and Winter Soldier, and unfortunately, because of the way that they built Red Skull, I can't use them with Hydra. So they're kind of worthless. They just don't have a home right now. So Crossbones and Winter Soldier both are just on a low rank blitz team that I really don't use past tier 4 or 5. It's unfortunate, but there it is. Because honestly, Winter Soldier's not a terrible character. He's just not a great one. Yeah. Moving on. 71,000 Shield Operative. Now, this is a character. We're getting down into the places where these are characters I don't use anymore, which, I mean, I have some characters down in the 60 and 50 ranges that we're going to get down to that I do use, but here we are in a batch that I don't. Shield Operative, this is a character that I used a lot early in my Shield team, but she's out of vote now. I just don't need that much defense. I don't need the buff clear, So like I say, I use her on a blitz team. I've plugged her in on certain PvP matches, versus matches. I'm not saying she's completely without usage. She's just she's really not on my radar right now. Kree Cyborg does more damage than you might think. And I try to put him in there on my Kree / Ultimates team. He's got some good synergies now. He's not terrible. They're not the greatest team out there, but they do. I'm pretty sure I use them as a filler on my defense, or maybe I retired them from that. I might have moved them to offense now, come to think of it. But the stick of that whole Kree team is damage. That's what they do, right? Their only healer is Oracle, and what does he do? He throws a couple of regens on people. That's not going to save anybody. It's terrible. It's awful. So I don't even think about defense with this team. That's why a lot of times, as I said earlier, I don't even use Royal Guard. I don't use a tank. I'm not thinking about defense at all. Kree, they're either going to go out there and they're going to kill everybody immediately, or they're going to go down in flames. Period. And so Kree Cyborg becomes a good addition to the team because of that, because he can dish the deeps. He's a pretty high DPS minion, to be honest. Strife, I was not high on this guy to begin with, and it took me a pretty long time relatively to get him to this rank of power at 70k. But since, now I'm sold on the Marauders. I've kind of moved to the new Brotherhood layout, and I'm full on using Marauders in War and Blitz and the like, and I can't complain. It's a great team, So Strife gets some love from me. Storm, Storm. You probably could do X-Men without her. But why would you? And she's great in raids because of the way that mechanic that she has, where she builds up all those charges. There are characters that have similar, but she's really the best example of that kind of mechanic. Ironheart, here's some new blood. I got her to 70k. I'm kind of hesitant to raise her any more than this, except, of course, obviously I need those last 2 stars. And that's pretty much that's her path forward as far as I can tell. Because I'm pretty stingy with my T4 gear right now. I've got some characters that I really need to raise to 14 for Dark Dimension 3, and she's not one of them. So I don't see her gear going anywhere from here for the immediate future. Possibly some T4s down the road. In her abilities. But for right now, this is where she's at. And the main thing I need that Blitz to come along. And we're going to work on getting her those last 2 stars. And as for her performance, man, she's even better. She's even better than Vision for the team. Can't complain about the animations or anything like that. Pretty solid character. So I bought an offer and some orbs, and I'm not regretting it. I did it mostly for just the novelty of thinking about theory crafting a new Avengers team, which is a really attractive idea to me, but we'll see how that works out. Captain America, speaking of my Avengers team, this was the first character I bought. When I first started playing the game, they had they were giving out special offers, and it was $10 for Captain America. And I thought, man, who doesn't love Captain America? I can do this all day. I'm a big fan of the MCU films. I love Captain America in the comics. Let's do this. So $10 is easily in my entertainment budget. Even back at that point in the game where I really wasn't spending much of any money on the game, even on energy. At that point, I hadn't even decided if I was really going to play it for long. But that's all been settled since. And while I haven't given Cap any love in a long time, I did raise him a lot early on because he was, of course, in the first and original meta team. And since then, he's just been kind of languishing right around here. We're at 69k where he's at. But I could see him getting some loving down the road, especially if this Avengers team works out. Elektra, decent deeps, 69k. I keep her ready to go here, but she's pretty much benched at this time. I don't really use that team except for their event. Spider-Man. Spider-Man's a good character. Spider-Man's solid, worth raising. You can tell that I mean, if I really thought any more of him, I probably would have raised this number here by now. Basically, he's just filling out a wing on my symbiote Spider-Verse team, and he's kind of like Miles. If he goes down early, man, I can recover. As long as I got the big three in the middle, it's all good. So Spider-Man, he's not benched. He's actually on a really useful, really good team for me right now, but I wouldn't say he's the most necessary element of it. Sith, right? I mean, are you even playing the game right now if you're not trying to raise Asgard, if for no other reason than to get Black Bolt? So get out there and farm her in the War Store. I can't recommend it enough. Not necessarily because she's the best tank in the game. She's not. She's just a really good tank for her team. It's just that, you know, this is your gateway to Black Bolt, and ain't nobody better than Black Bolt. Taskmaster. I've only recently got Tasky to 7 stars. He's doing pretty good. He's like Red Skull. This is a character that, you know, I really don't play actively a lot, but he's doing well for me in War. And he's certainly netted me more than my fair share of defensive victories to this point. Carnage. This guy should probably be higher. I would really like for this character to be up in the same power ranges as my Venom. Unfortunately, he's not 6 red stars. So Carnage is actually on my list to get some promotion credits at some point, because I really would like to get him up to 5 and then keep moving him from there, because this is a character that brings the pain and does a lot of the damage that Venom then spreads around on the symbiote team. So he's not as important as Symbi Spidey, but he's one of the big 3 on that team that really makes it work. And without him, they wouldn't be able to beat Asgardians and teams like that. Quake. Oh, Quake. I cannot tell you how happy I am that Quake is back in the meta on the Inhumans team. Quake is a character that, like Phil Coulson, I'm a big fan of from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show. Great show. Final season airing now. And she, you know, she had her heyday early, right? She was one of those characters that was on the first meta team. And then she just sort of dropped off the map and hasn't been doing anything since. I really hoped at one point that we'd see her come back in a S.H.I.E.L.D. team when they were adding in Phil Coulson, because to me Coulson is like a father figure to her, and it just seemed natural that they would give them some synergy, but they didn't, and I was disappointed by that. So instead, S.H.I.E.L.D., she's kind of out in the cold on S.H.I.E.L.D. She just doesn't fit in on a S.H.I.E.L.D. team. So then Inhumans came along, and I'm glad she's got a home because I really enjoy the character. She's not the strongest Inhuman. But she adds into that big, you know, area of effect combo that they do, and you know, she's pretty effective. You know, the offense down on her big hitter, Earthquake, is pretty nice, and she's just a solid character all around. A really good DPS, and you know, for a controller, and you know, I can't complain about Quake at all. I mean, my feelings for her is about 75K, but the reality is closer to 68K, and she's sort of a minor member of a fantastic team. But I think they probably function okay without her. I just, you know, don't see any need to do that. Getting down into my Hydra minions. So, Hydra Rifle Trooper. These are all the Hydra minions. There's really not much to say about them. They were terrible until they weren't. Now they're not. But they're only good in one team with one guy. So, you know, there you go. If you got that guy, raise these minions. If you don't, screw these minions, right? So, Hydra Rifle Trooper, Human Torch, big DPS on a big DPS team. What can you say? I wish he was a little beefier on the numbers, and I wish he didn't die so damn easy. But, yeah, it still works. The team works. Ultron. I don't know if this guy's ever going to get red stars one day. But even all the way down here at 68, which, you know, on my roster is way down the list. You know, Starts off at 111. And then Ultron is way down here. Where you at, Ulti? Did I pass him? I passed him. There he is. Great character. What can you say? If you ain't got Ultron, start working on Ultron. And this is what I stress to new players: is get your butt in DD2 as fast as you can. And then once you get through DD2, chill. Don't do that speed run yet. Just chill out. Raise this guy. Get this guy up. Get him, get him ready. Once you've got him to gear tier 13, then go back into DD2. Do your speed run. Get him to 7 stars. Have a good time. Enjoy your new toy. It's like my buddy Red Tile likes to call him the Game Shark. He just makes every mode, it feels like you're cheating. He just makes everything easier. So, pick him up. If you ain't got him, he's a fundamental part of any solid roster. Mystique, good character. We've moved her over to Marauder. She's doing well there. Kind of brittle, like a lot of young controllers, a lot of DPS and controllers. She just really, can't take a hit that well. So try to guard her. Mantis, solid character. She was the best raid healer for about a week until Minerva came out. But still, she's finding a little more love from me these days because I'm plugging her in onto a straight Guardian team here and there. She works well. She's still got the pep. She'll still keep that team going. And you don't really need to add in anymore. She doesn't need to do that much DPS with characters like Rocket Raccoon around. So Toad, I'm bringing this guy up. I wished I'd pulled more red stars. I've only just recently got his 7th gold star, and of course I need to work a little more on the gear. And I haven't made any decisions on the T4s yet, but like I say, those are pretty rare for me, and I got to really prioritize. This character, I got no complaints, man. The new Brotherhood works well. It works really well. So if you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up. Gamora, man, I never put her with Guardians anymore. She lives on my Brawler team, and if I had to take somebody off of Brawlers, it'd probably be her. Her one and only really cool thing about her is that she can do kill chains, much like Black Panther. Unfortunately, she just doesn't pull it off as often, and she just, especially me at only 5 red stars, she just doesn't have the pep to do it. So she's some additional DPS on my hero Brawler squad, but I wouldn't say she's an integral part of it. And I could see if they add somebody in down the road, like this character may end up getting benched, which is sad because I really did like her in the movies. I didn't really read her comic much. Wolverine, everybody's got some Wolverine action going on. We're all picking him up with our daily rewards, etc. And he's just a good, solid brawler. He does decent damage. He gets even better if you pair him with Colossus, and So I wouldn't build an X-Men team without him. But he's not that impressive. But I still wouldn't build an X-Men team without him. So, you probably got him, and you ain't got no choice in the matter. So just make sure he's okay. Graviton. Oh, good Lord. This guy is a big part of, also a character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Kind of liked him. This guy is pretty integral for a good AIM team. And I love a good AIM team. So, Graviton is a character worth putting points into. Fantastic damage, good controlling abilities. He's going to throw people around. He's going to slow them. I don't think AIM would work as well without him. I don't know that it would work at all, really. So I can't remember the last time I built an AIM team that he wasn't on. We'll see maybe when they add MODOK one day. Doctor Strange, he was good early for a while, and then he really wasn't. And now he's pretty good again because he works really well, as I said earlier, on the Supernatural team because some people die, and then Ghost Rider throws some big damage around, and then Doc brings them back. Right? No harm, no foul. You still got your people. All that damage was done to the enemy. It's pretty decent. kind of flow of battle for that team. It's open to calamity more than some strategies, perhaps. And I have had that supernatural team just fall apart before, but they're a good team. Nobu, not good at all. Not a great character. I'm embarrassed that I even raised him to gear tier 12, but I kind of did everybody, so Nobu included. I wouldn't prioritize Nobu if you're in the prioritization game at all, though. He was cool at one point back in the day, and there was a point there that really Han was the only team that had synergies of any sort. They were kind of the prototype for what the game looks like today. But not a good character, not a good team, So I wouldn't really worry about this guy too much. Mysterio, man, he really probably deserves to be higher than 66. Another piece of gear or two would probably get him back into shape, but decent character, He his main goal is to apply heal blocks on the team, pretty much just to keep Iron Fist from healing the defenders, because that's their niche. And so, because of that, they probably wouldn't work without him. You need him. If you're going to build that team, you need him. But if you're not going to build that team, if you're not deep enough on your offensive roster in war that you're looking to build niche teams, then this ain't your guy. Hawkeye, man, not that great. He's better than people give him credit for, but I'm kicking him off my Avengers team, I think, for greener pastures, i.e. Vision. But, Hawkeye's getting benched. I don't know what else to say. He's getting benched. America Chavez not getting benched anytime soon. Probably deserves some love. I've only got that one blue gear on her at 12, so she could definitely do better. But Chavez is a great part of my brawler team, and I like my brawler team, as we keep bringing up. She really does bring it together. You got some buff clears, good damage on her shooting star, her middle ability. This is a solid character. And I know a lot of people don't have her, kind of let her go by, didn't really think much about her. I'd never heard of her, right? I'd never heard of America Chavez. She's a fairly recent comic character. So, I'm not invested in the character in that way at all. But, cool-looking character, solid performance, and Brawlers is just a good team that involves characters that wouldn't have a good home otherwise. You know what I mean? So you might as well build a brawler team. M'Baku. Really enjoyed this guy in the movie. Decent enough tank for Wakanda. Keep him low because I like my tanks to be low. And he's just not worth putting the points in beyond that. This guy doesn't do a lot of damage. He's not really that impressive in any other facet. He's Wakanda's tank, and, that's really nothing more to say about that. Deadpool. So Deadpool was languishing down here at 65K for the moment because he hasn't really had a team. But now he's got a team coming. And I'm excited I'm going to be raising him and Cable up some in the coming days. And I'm looking forward to this X-Force team. I don't really... if I'm being honest, I don't need another offensive team. I do not. But I could use it, right? I got some offensive teams that if these guys prove to be better, I guess, I can see some shuffling. Right now, I'm putting in a full 12 attacks every war, and I have 12 good teams to do it with. But, trading up wouldn't hurt. So we'll see. I'm going to reserve judgment, and we'll see how Domino's kit looks and how the rest pan out. I'm not really... at this point, I don't trust, what Fox Next has to say about upcoming characters. And in fact, if there's anything that I do trust at this point, is that they will oversell them. So I'm still, on the fence about X-Force, but I'm hopeful just like everybody else. Killmonger. Bury me with my people. Killmonger, good DPS, decent team. Wakanda, is sort of kind of a B-rank team in the game right now. And, if you're not to the point where you're leveling B-rank teams, then, don't worry about him. Here's Cable. You know, obviously he's going along with Deadpool or with he's obviously going along with Deadpool on the X-Force. You know, good character. They work well together and always have. It's just that a two-man synergy has never really been that valuable in the game. In fact, I would say the most valuable two-man synergy in the game right now is Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight. But still, these two characters work well together, but they need a team. So I've never really invested that many resources into them. Mordo, good character, performed well on the, you know, he's great controller. You know, you really want this guy's debuffs. And works well with Wanda because she can extend them. And that's what a lot of us did back in the old days with the old Mystic setup. And that's what we're doing now with Supernatural. So it's you know, just makes sense. Mordo's a good character. Supernatural's a solid team. And, you know, at some point you should get around to raising them. Mercenary Lieutenant, also probably a contender for best minion. Does a little healing, has some good buffs. I like to on the raid lanes that have defender / mercenaries. This is the guy I throw in with my defenders, and you know, he's also a great part of that new Merc defensive squad. He's just a solid character. You know, the minor healing and the offensive buff is basically his major contributions, and it's, you know, they're not to be overlooked. This is a character that probably deserves some love on any big roster. And now to Blob. Blob's another one. He's a little behind Toad at this point. I haven't quite got him to that 7th gold star. Working on it. But basically, you know, I'm like everybody else, man. I'm not buying offers on this guy, so I'm just waiting on him to come out of orbs. And that'll happen eventually. On to more. Here's my Hydra tank. Also, don't necessarily want him to be that high, so 65k works good for me. I have raised him all the way to tier 13. I think that was mostly to overcompensate for the fact that I couldn't pull that 5th red star. Mercenary Riot Guard. Here's another tank. I don't want him too high. Great tank for that Merc team. You know, no complaints about this guy. I think actually I pulled a red star on him recently. He was 4. Shield Assault. This is another operative. This is another shield minion that I did raise early on and used. And now, man, she's not the best option. She's just not the best option anymore, in my opinion. And so I still got her here ready to go. You know, I mean, I could give her a little love and plug her in, you know, pretty much anywhere, even without love. You know, 65k is still pretty respectable at 4 red stars. I just, you know, she gets in on a rando blitz team that I use in lower tiers, and that's pretty much about it. Other than that, she's benched. Night Nurse. Oh, God. Night Nurse was great, you know, a couple years ago. Night Nurse is, you know, pretty trash now. If you were in a 5v5 setting and the other team has Night Nurse, that's the team you want to pick. That's the team you want to go after, because they might as well have 4 people. She's terrible. She's terrible. Decent enough raid healer. There are better options for that now too. 5v5, don't put her in there. Don't put her in there. Hydra Scientist is another one. I don't use this guy on my Hydra team. You know, he's seen some love. I actually had a pretty decent red star pull on him, but it's not enough to sway me to use him. Nah, that's okay. Aim Monstrosity I use. This guy does pretty decent damage for all. You know, I haven't had to invest into him too heavily. I wouldn't have even had to take him to gear tier 13 if I'd been able to pull some more red stars on him. And he might be a solid candidate for me to put upgrade tokens into one day, because I am a big fan of that aim team. Korath is another one that, you know, I mean, some people are putting him on their Merc teams. I've opted not to. He kind of doesn't have a home for me right now. And outside of Blitz, he's on the bench. Ronan the Accuser, man, this guy, What I just said about Night Nurse, I used to say about Ronan, right? Like if you saw Ronan, see Ronan, fight Ronan, right? That was the thing a lot of people were saying back in the day. Not the case anymore. Ronan's pretty good. The Kree rework really did him a lot of wonders. And, this is a guy you need to respect. Merc Sniper, decent damage on a good team. You might use him on your Merc team. You might not. It's legitimate either way. Kree Reaper, like I said, the focus of that Kree team, damage. She does a lot of damage. I've thrown her in there at times. I'm kind of not using her at the moment, but solid character. Hand Sorceress, I like that she is a self-sustaining healer. Like she goes off and she does damage. She heals herself. She's not bad, but her team ain't good at all. And she's not, she's maybe high side average at best, and I don't even think she's that really. So, not a lot to say. Do not invest in hand as heavily as I have invested in hand. I don't recommend it. Wasp, man, I'm giving Ant-Man some love. I'm kind of leaving Wasp behind. I don't have a home for Wasp. She gets in on a low-ranking Blitz team, and that's it. Otherwise, she's benched. Aim Infector, this guy hardly sees any action from me. There's way better aim characters. So as you can see, I haven't even raised him to 12, right? Any character that I might conceivably use in war is at least gear tier 12. But this dude, nah, he's minor blitzes only. He doesn't see the field very often. Hydra Sniper does. He's on my Hydra team. Good team. Not, this guy individually not great, but that's a team you want if you have Red Skull. Grenadier, not a character you want, really. I've given him some love over the years, but this is not the guy you want on that team with Red Skull, and so he's hanging out at gear tier 11, and he's kind of just benched for the moment, and I don't see that changing anytime in the future. Nebula's been languishing in obscurity for a long time now, like the character in the movies. Big fan of the actress. This is not a good character in this game. Aim Researcher, nothing to write home about here. If you're just dead set to have a second healer on the aim team, if you want to build a defensive aim team, then knock yourself out. I don't see it. Ultimus, man, I actually used this guy. I wish he was more powerful. Maybe one day I'll get some red stars on him. It's been a long, slow plod to get to that point, and I'm not there yet. I used to call him a big blue dildo. He was I didn't even want his shards. He was pointless, But now he's worth having. He's pretty decent. He's not the greatest character in the game. I wouldn't give him up. There's a lot of characters I'd rather have first, but you're going to accumulate this guy no matter what you do. In fact, the more successful you are at this game, the more likely you have a beefy Ultimus. So now that he's useful, you might as well utilize him, right? He's not going out there and playing a starring role in any wars or anything like that, but he's a solid character. Hand Assassin, not a solid character. Razor just enough to get Phoenix and then forget her. Ravager Stitcher, terrible healer. Ravagers really are going to need some love one day. Hope they get Taserface, but for now they're terrible. This character is not worth putting any points into. Hand Blade Master, same thing. Terrible character. I mean, not even worth putting on a terrible team. That's how bad Hand Blade Master is. Just make do with the ones that Nobu summons, right? Ravager Boomer. Again, just make do with, if you want a Ravager Boomer on your team, put Yondu on your team and let him summon some Ravager Boomers. Don't put points into Ravager Boomer. He stinks. Ravager Bruiser, he stinks even worse. This is probably the worst tank in the game. Don't waste any resources on this guy. I regret the day I pulled 6 red stars on him. That is easily my most useless red star pull by far. Kree Oracle, again, all this guy does is put a couple of weak little regens on somebody. He doesn't even immediately heal them. It's like, hey, here's some healing that you can have later. It's like, hey, dude, they're hitting me now. I need healing now. That guy's terrible. There's no point putting this guy on a team. And then, of course, the bottom of the list, Mercenary Soldier. What can I say about Mercenary Soldier? Don't get Mercenary Soldier. He's terrible. So there you go. That's my roster. 10 million power all told amongst these 130 some odd characters. This is what I am working with, and this is what I'm going to be streaming with on a, probably 3 times a week basis. We're going to work out a schedule, definitely on the weekends, and at least 2 or 3 times through the week. I'm a pretty avid gamer, and if I end up streaming all the time that I play, it's going to be twice a day, because I usually play a morning session and then an evening session after work, which is kind of what I'm doing right now, except I'm filming a video. So that's the roster. The only thing I can think of that you might want to see is I'm going to roll through my save teams real quick and let you see what I'm using in Blitz and War. So my best team by far, starting at the top here, is my 440k shield team. But we'll roll all the way down here to the bottom and start there. So down here is all the damn throwaway characters that I just told you not to raise. And the only reason I've raised them as far as they have is because I don't have anything else to do with the resources, and the higher points they are, the more I can score in Blitz, essentially, right? So that just saves me time. Anything that saves me time, I'm all about. So I got just rando team, rando team, rando team, rando team. These guys are just here to work me through the early stages and earn me some points. Then we get to the start of the actual teams that I might use in some serious sense in another game mode, and that starts, of course, with hand, which even at 344k, like I say, they're benched. I'm not using them. This is the Avengers team that I'm trying to roll with right now. They're doing okay, but I don't see any. I'm not going to raise them up this list any further for right now because I'm not satisfied that they can handle higher levels of Blitz, let alone anything else. I've thought about throwing them in there on War, but I got better options. Okay, so this is the defensive Merc team that I'm rolling with right now. Pretty solid team, man. Pretty solid team. Really strong in War. Speaking of which, here we have my my Hydra defense. I think it's real important. Some people really don't get positioning. Always have your tank out on the end. Always have your tank out on the end. That way, splash damage is minimized. It's only if they hit you with a splash damage ability, it only hits one other person instead of 2. And in this case, it'll be Red Skull, and Red Skull can't take damage. So that's really the setup you want right there. Something that really, honestly, just these first 2 are the most important. That's the way you want those 2 characters to look. What you do with these other 3, not quite as critical. So here's my Kree team with Ultimates on it. Like I said, I'm not using Minerva on this team, and I'm not using Captain Marvel on this team. I have better homes for them. So this is what I'm rolling with at the moment. Just heavy damage. This is the Blitz setup, so I have not pulled out Royal Guard, but I'm considering it. I'm at the point where I might do that. I've got Minerva thrown in here with kind of a Guardians hybrid, because she typically just does better for me than Mantis. I got my new 361k on my new Brotherhood setup. I'm still trying to get them caught up. They were up closer to 400k before, back before I moved out these 2 right here. So almost 400k on the Marauders, especially. They'd probably be higher, but I wanted to put Ultron with them, and he's not really that high as far as power goes. As a matter of fact, that's as high as Ultron can ever get, is 68,000. That's his max number. There's no going past that. And I think we all know that he has an impact that is higher than that number. And he's doing real well on this team for me right now. Next up is, one of my new favorite teams. This symbiote team right here is fantastic. Like I said, these Spidey and Miles and Peter, they work well in there, but they can almost be anybody in those two slots. What you really need are these three symbiote characters, and that makes for a very strong team. I heard Casino talking about using those three and then a couple from another team, and to handle like a big Asgardian teams. I'm in gold too, so I probably don't see as big Asgardian teams as he does. My 350K on my Supernatural. Like I said, this is kind of a niche team. It's kind of they're a good counter for Coulson Fury Shield teams. They're a good counter for the new Merc team, or at least they're a decent counter for the new Merc team. But like I say, it's hit or miss. Like when the whole strategy revolves around losing one or two people, things can go awry. It can be a really effective team, or sometimes they can just fall apart. So bear that in mind. They wouldn't be the first offensive team I'd be looking to raise. That would be either X-Men or Inhumans or any of the other teams that we're going to see at the top of this list. Here we go with Wakanda. I got a nice, strong Wakanda, 387, almost 388. They do well in Blitz, right? They score me some points. In War, they're just kind of a filler team on my defense. They're beefy enough that if you want to get through that 7 red star Black Panther, you better bring a decent team. So they usually clear them in one shot, but they have to use a good team to do it, and that's sort of just where I'm aiming with them. 359 on my Sinister Six team. Like I said, great team, fills a niche. 360 with some war buffs is just about strong enough to take out a 450, 500K defender, which is, about as strong as you're going to see. And you're going to see some. About everybody's got a defender. So I save those guys for the biggest defender that we see during the war, and I go take out that roadblock. And then here's my babies. This is my all-female hero brawler team. These divas are badass. Of course, obviously, most of the heavy lifting is being done by Captain Marvel, but wonderful team. Wonderful team. Couldn't recommend them enough. So here's the newbies, 455K. This is my Black Order team. I got the best pull, obviously, on Corvus Glaive, getting the 7 red stars. And honestly, that is most of the time the way to go, is you want them red stars on a DPS character. In this particular case, I probably would have been better if I'd got that pull on Black Maw. And I had saved up almost 200 red star orbs when Black Maw released, and that 4 pull was the best I could get out of all of it. In fact, the best thing I got out of that day of pulling red orbs, that day of pulling orbs, was I basically had a couple of whale wars all by myself, and the best thing I got was that 7 red star Hulk. So 400K even, just about on my Asgardian team. What can you say about this team? Everybody should have one. You got to have one of these for a Black Bolt, and everybody needs a Black Bolt. This is a good team. They're going to be great on your defense. Wonderful sustain. They do well in raids. Love Asgard. Love Asgard. This is my lovely AIM team. I love this team. I got 2 7 reds on this team. These guys put in work for me, man. I cannot recommend them highly enough. That rework was one of the best reworks in the game. AIM is worth your time. Fantastic Four, if you can get your hands on them, also worth your time. Great offensive war team, really puts out some damage, and Invisible Woman gives them just enough sustain to get them through. Generally, most things, by the time you get to where you're using Johnny Storm's ultimate, it's over at that point. Similarly, with my 430K Inhumans team, this is the big roadblock clearer in war. Now, I don't care what you got in front of me. This team's taking it out. It's gone. So 430K. I mean, I would like to raise this team up closer to 500, but that's largely going to depend on mini uniques, as those of us in the end game realize. That it all comes down to farming the store and do you get lucky. But Inhumans, you can't say enough good things about Inhumans. So I'm at 392K. I dropped a little bit on my power armor team. This is a fantastic offensive team as well. You know, basically here at the top here, we're looking at all the best ones. You got your Inhumans, you got your power armor, you got your X-Men, which is, you know, this is a pretty common X-Men setup. A lot of people are running this team. This is the power armor team everybody's running now, you know. So I'm not doing anything special here. I'm just working with bigger numbers than a lot of people, and they're great. I can attest that these teams perform well up and down the spectrum of power, because I grew through those early levels that you may be on myself at one time. And then finally, last team here is my shield team, beefed up by my 100K Coulson and Fury. Love this team, love shield. Big fan of the shield show. Always been a big fan of shield. So, like I say, this is the hotness, and this is I think this is the best setup too. You like you always want your tank out on the end, and then you really want somebody next to that tank that either is going to stop damage chains from going, or like Trooper here is going to dish a lot of retributive damage, because the two people that any player that attacks this team in war, they're either going to want to be hitting medic. Any smart player is going to start by killing medic. You start by killing Coulson, you're just putting yourself in for a world of hurt. Same thing with Nick. So you start by killing medic. You get the free shots from Trooper. You know, medic gets to have health. They have to start attacking security. You get the free shots. You want to use positioning to maximize how much damage you get out of Trooper. I find that most people who use operative or somebody else instead, they typically are not positioning Trooper in the most efficient fashion. So anyway, just a tip from me to you. So I guess we're at the 2-hour mark now, and this has gone way longer than I expected. But it's a big roster. So here we are. 10 million total collection power, 2 years of my life, and I'm looking forward to one or two more at least, right? The game is in a good state. I'm really excited about the future of versus real-time 1v1 PvP. Can't wait to get out there and fight all of you. I'm really looking forward to doing some live streaming and showing off, doing raids and other things, and just engaging with the community. So if any of you would like to come down and watch, you got any questions, concerns, or just comments that you want to bounce off of me, bring them on, put them down in the comments. There are some buttons down there that do some things that I hear a lot of people yelling about, and I'm not doing this for a living, but hey, it would help me out. I appreciate it. Have a good day and keep gaming.